Hello and welcome to the HQ Movie Review Podcast. I'm Josh,
I'm Rachel.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Heather.
and we just watched Indiana Jones, The Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I watched that movie.
Yeah, same here.
It's been so long since I've never seen that movie.
You've never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Until tonight.
I also have not seen it before.
Huh. Well, so congratulations on having seen the movie for the first time, you guys.
Yeah, this is actually the first Indiana Jones movie ever that I've seen. I haven't seen any of them.
It is also the first one ever, period.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, actually. No, I knew.
We did have an issue when we tried to start watching the movie where we started playing Temple of Doom first. And I guess it makes sense now that it took us so long to go, hey, wait a second, this isn't right.
It was a few seconds. But it was also that the two people who had seen this movie forgot how it started.
Yeah, I was just kind of confused. Like, who's this dancing woman? I don't know what it was. I couldn't even really tell.
She appeared out of a weird dragon
Well,
head.
listen, having seen the entirety of the first movie now, you know for a fact that that scene comes without context anyway.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
fair.
You have as much information about that woman now as you did before we watched this movie.
I mean, you're right. You're 100% right. I didn't realize how many of the iconic Indiana Jones moments came from directly just this movie.
This is absolutely, like, hands down the best one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say so.
It was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. You can definitely tell it's an older movie, though.
Oh, yeah.
The effects have not aged well.
Those green screens, though.
You mean there wasn't a giant mystical storm above them in Egypt while they were digging up the Ark? I can't believe that. It was so lifelike.
Or the weird flame coming from the Ark of the Covenant. Just going up. Just looked like, I don't know, what, it was like paper effects. Would you just have a fan with a piece of string and it's kind of wiggling?
No, that was just real Godfire. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, as someone who's never seen actual real God fire, who knows what it looks like? So, we don't know. Maybe that is what it looks like. Bad movie effect fire.
There was so much sarcasm in the beginning of that sentence that I'm not sure if you've actually seen Godfire now or not. I'm a little concerned.
I assure you, I have definitely not seen Godfire.
You're not helping the case.
But have you seen St. Elmo's Fire?
No.
No one has seen Someone's Fire.
Okay.
I feel like Josh has.
That's such an old reference. You know the only place I've ever heard of Sonomo's Fire was the song 1985 where they
My
sing
Bowling
about
for
the things the mom knows that no one can relate to.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes,
she's
that's
seen
it.
all the classics. She knows every line. Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, even St. Elmo's Fire.
Yeah, that's it. You're the mom from 1985. Congratulations.
Oh, that hurts.
Josh, you're just old.
Josh out here dragging the movie for being old. When
Well, that just points to how old this movie is.
I mean, a lot of the effects, I think that one of the reasons that this one doesn't hold up as well as some of the other things from the same time that we've watched recently is so much less of it can be done with practical effects.
Oh, yeah.
And so they had to rely on the other avenues that aren't going to age as well.
Yeah, like there's really nothing we could do, despite how punchable that man's face was. We can't really melt his face, so there was no way to do that any other way.
Honestly, I was going to point out that while not, quote, realistic, I think that was one of the better effects that they did have. Like the face melting.
Yeah.
It generally was like, okay, that it doesn't look real. I immediately go, this is weird and dumb, but I honestly just really liked that they did the face melting bit, practical effect, where it was clearly just like, I don't know, maybe a wax statue that they just melted.
Yeah, it looked like a wax statue that they melted and then sped up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You could definitely tell it sped up, but it looked like they just kind of made a wax statue with layers and then just put a heat gun on it and just let it melt the different layers away.
They actually had to put more of the fake fire in at the end because one of those heads explodes. And when it exploded, they had an R rating and they wanted to knock it down to PG-13. And so they had to cover it up to make it a little bit less gory and traumatic.
Interesting.
So why don't we take this from the top? The first note that I have written down is that Jones teaches one class every 3 months. Because like he's always going on like archaeological digs and like getting into trouble in like South America and Egypt and stuff. And so he's definitely never in class that often.
And when he does get back, I'm sure he takes like a couple weeks off to, recover from his wounds that he seems to take every time.
Then again, if I was a tenured professor, I would also just take time off all of the time.
Yeah, that TA is just really getting way more than they bargained for that class.
Also, I love how he was like, I have office hours on Thursday, but not Wednesday. Like he was there on Thursday.
Yeah, he definitely was not there for those office hours.
He just left.
He's a liar.
This was absolutely the first class that he taught after coming back from the opening sequence, and he immediately left again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also funny because, like, clearly all of the girls, probably also some of the guys, but we know when this movie was shot, were, like, there because it's hot Harrison Ford. They were just like, yeah, no, I'm here because the professor is a dreamboat. And it's like, okay, well, he's not actually here. He's never here. You've seen him twice this entire semester.
If this class was today on Rate My Professor, it would just be like, you're never going to have to do any work because the professor's never there. But when he does show up, absolute smoke show. And that's all you need to know about the class.
5 stars.
5 stars.
So did that one girl show up and go, oh shit, he's here. Let me write on my eyelids.
I have to go
Oh
to the
my
bathroom
gosh.
right now immediately to write love you.
She's been writing those on her eyelids 3 times a week for the entire semester, hoping he'd show up. She just doesn't blink when the TA's there.
I was about to say, she just needs to make sure to never blink.
I also, when they were leaving the classroom, I watched and I counted, and it was entirely women. There were 2 guys in the class that left at the very end, which again, it's the time that it was shot. And so they were like, all right, we need to really hammer in that Professor Jones is attracting all of the ladies in archaeology.
Yeah, those 2 guys are actually archaeology majors, and they were angry because he's never there.
And they have to sit in the back.
Also, that one guy just left an apple. Like,
Yeah, for your teacher, you know.
yeah, but just, there you go. It's like, all right, why?
What if he was hungry?
He brings an apple every day in hopes that it will be the day that Mr. Jones shows up to class.
Except he's a doctor. The apple keeps him away.
Oh no.
That's why he's never there.
Oh, we cracked
Oh,
the
the
code.
flaw in his logic.
You know what? It makes sense. He brought the apple. Dr. Jones immediately left again.
He must have not been bringing apples for like a week or something.
He didn't want to do the reading.
Like, yeah, the 2 chapters of reading they had to do.
So the other thing that happens in the beginning of the movie is that you really have to start thinking about very quickly the fine line, and this is also kind of a product of its time, of that, like the 1920s, 1930s was really just everybody in archaeology was dancing like the fine line between archaeologist and treasure hunter.
Oh, yeah. Like, sometimes it was grave robbing. Sometimes it was stealing from people who were actively trying to stop you. Case in point, the opening of this movie.
Yep. He steals the golden idol from a still active civilization that was very present and very much against the removal of this idol.
Yeah. Like, there's no qualms about it. He's not, like, morally upset or confused or, like... He does not, for a second, question his actions. He's like, nope, I'm taking this. And he doesn't actually say the "it belongs in a museum" line in this one. But, like...
You're right.
Yeah, for all of the iconic things in this movie, "it belongs in a museum" is not one of them. But I mean, that's clearly where he was going with that. Like when he gets back, he's like, well, I had it. I don't have it. I do have these other small things that you can sell to the museum. And then the other doctor is like, yeah, sure, the museum will take them, no questions asked. But
Maybe we should ask some questions.
yeah, maybe you ask some questions about where these came from and why you're just taking them.
He's profiting off of these artifacts too, so there really isn't that much of a difference between him and Belloc, who's taking it and selling it in Marrakesh. He's just selling it somewhere that it's going to be accessible for the public to look at.
Well, black market.
Well, no, yeah, Belloc is selling it to the black market.
Yeah.
Jones is selling it to a museum.
Oh, I thought
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about Belloc was selling it to someone that was public, and I was like, I mean, black market is technically public, but not what I would call.
yeah, but like, even Belloc, who is apparently 100% aware of the fact that he is the villain of the story, is like, yeah, I'm just a dark reflection of you. It's like, hey, bud, do you know what you're saying?
Yeah.
So you're just 100% like self-aware of the fact that you're a villain and you don't care. You're just gonna be evil.
I mean, he was working with Nazis.
Yeah, he was just casually like, yeah, I'll help the Nazis find the Ark of the Covenant for the right price.
Like, he was a French archaeologist working with Nazis, the enemy in World War II. I think he knew he was the bad guy.
Listen, I'm not saying...
And yeah, I know the point is that he, like you said, he was very much aware that he was a bad guy and just didn't care.
I will say, I don't think that all of the Nazis thought that they were villains. They were villains. I don't think they all thought they were villains.
My point was that he was a French archaeologist.
Yeah, no, I get that he wasn't German. He was just, like, joining them. I'm saying, in real life, most people don't wake up and think, I'm going to be the villain today.
You did, apparently.
Everyone is the hero of their own story. And if I'm mean, it's because that's the right thing to do.
Not this guy,
Obviously,
though.
I'm always justified.
Not this guy. He knows he's not justified in doing what he's doing.
Yeah, he is absolutely like, I'm going to do wrong today. I'm going to make the wrong decisions, be on the wrong side of this.
He knows what the morally correct thing to do is. He's just choosing the profit over it. Even with the golden idol,
Yeah.
he has this exchange with Jones where he basically says like, oh, you just chose the wrong people. And he's like, if they knew you like I did, they wouldn't be so keen on helping you.
Yeah, and his response was, yeah, but I speak their language and you don't, so na-na-na-na boo-boo.
Which does bring me to another point. Does Indiana Jones respect other cultures? Because I'm not super sure about
I
that.
don't think he does.
Well, considering how he acted with the Ark of the Covenant, no.
And I think, like, contextually, at least Christianity, I think, is his culture. Like, is what the implication was. Like, at one point, Belloc is talking to him, and he's like, yeah, we've both fallen from the superior faith or whatever. I think the implication there is, like, Christianity. But, like, Belloc is saying, hey, we were both people of faith at some point, and now we just care about archaeology. But, yeah, no, Indiana Jones doesn't care about other people's cultures.
Like, there's definitely a line where he gets along really well with several contacts that he has across the world, but it definitely, there's a line somewhere. I don't know where that line is for him, but below that, he's like, I'm cool with robbing these people. I don't need to learn their languages. I just need to learn the value of these objects for the purpose of the museum.
Yeah. He's like, I needed to learn enough to get by, and then beyond that, could not care less. Like, the one scene where Marin gets, like, kidnapped and put in a basket. Obviously, yeah, he needs to see what's in all his baskets, so he runs through the crowd and tips over everyone's basket. And then he just, like, immediately leaves and looks annoyed at them for trying to stop him. Like, I get that you had to do that because this woman's life is at stake. But don't be annoyed at them because they don't know what's going on and you just ran in and tipped over all of the baskets they were carrying.
Yeah. In their eyes, Jones is just an asshole who just ran up to them and said, fuck you.
Yeah. Hey, fuck your basket. I'm an American. And then he leaves.
And fuck yours, and yours, and yours, and yours. Bye.
So I have a note from essentially the end, but who cares about timelines? And it's that throughout the course of these 3 existing Indiana Jones movies, the only 3, that exist. He finds proof of like magic and religion several times and doesn't really tell anybody about it.
Yeah, like what was with the laser beam in the map room?
Yeah, well, that was a special magical crystal that at the right angle, when the sunlight hits it, like clearly we could see that it was light was going through it the entire time, but at the right angle, it shoots a laser that tells you exactly where it is. Or like the Ark of the Covenant as a whole is this magical artifact that is basically proof that the Abrahamic God exists and has like opinions on things.
Like, hey, don't draw a swastika on the crate that I'm
Yeah.
in.
He's anti-Nazi. I feel like if you would like, I mean, I guess like Indiana Jones didn't see that detail, but like the cup, like the Holy Grail, finds it in a later movie, and then loses it, and then nobody.
He did what?
We'll get there. Spoilers, sorry.
He does what now?
Spoilers for this old movie that you haven't seen, but you have seen San Elmo's Fire. Anyway, my point being, he finds all of these magical, like, faith-affirming things. He's like, hey, actual proof that God exists, and he doesn't like Nazis. I feel like if you had, like, gone public with that, there'd probably have been way fewer Nazis. Like, just saying, like, hey, there's a God, and there's an afterlife, and he doesn't like this thing you're doing. He's very against it. I feel like that'd be proof. That'd be enough for some people to maybe not do what they're doing.
How does he prove this, though?
I mean, yeah, it's also the fault of those government guys who absolutely covered it up in this warehouse that you have numbered 13.
Maybe he should have just let them take the Ark back to Germany.
Yeah,
for
ironically,
just for a minute.
Ironically, had they just taken the Ark back to Germany and opened it right in front of Hitler himself, would have solved a lot of problems. Would have solved a lot of things a lot sooner.
Oh yeah.
He
Yep.
couldn't have known that, but still, it's dramatic irony.
Oh, okay, since we're talking about the Ark of the Covenant and all the things that it did, as I was telling you before we started recording, there were some things that this movie did that were definitely right in terms of the Ark of the Covenant, but also just wrong. Like, as someone who did research into this and knows stuff about the Ark of the Covenant, the Jews had to do very specific things to go near the Ark of the Covenant. Certain people God went, you do this. This is your job. And if you mess up one tiny thing on accident, you will instantly die. You have to do it perfect, no exceptions. And like, it was like, you couldn't even get close to the thing without following very specific steps, or you would just die instantly. And so it's like seeing them, like, they're over here, like, carrying it and, like, moving it around and just getting, like, right next to it. And it's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
They probably dropped it at some point.
I mean, they were like had it bouncing around in the back of a truck for like
Right?
a whole scene.
And I'm like, no. But they did do it right with, like, when they opened it, they all died. Specifically, if you open it, you die because you're not supposed to open it ever. Like, just in general, it's never supposed to be opened anymore. Like, it was opened a couple of times, and then God went, no. No more.
He took the angel of death from the Prince of Egypt and he put it in the box and said, if anyone opens this, just kill him.
But only if they have their eyes open.
Yeah.
But I will say that I have an interesting little fun fact, that there was a group of people that opened the Ark of the Covenant and lived. And they only lived because they had no knowledge whatsoever of what it was for, and what it meant.
I mean,
So
that's fair.
they had no knowledge whatsoever, and I don't remember what group it was, but there was just this small group of people that just found the Ark of the Covenant at one point, and they opened it, but they had no idea what it was. And so basically, God just went, normally I would kill you, but you didn't know. But don't ever do it again.
Yeah, that'd be really unfair if they opened it and it's like, well, there's no warning, just die.
Yeah. And so it's like, cool. So they could have technically gotten away with opening it if they just had no idea what it was.
Except for the fact that they knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They came here with the express purpose of opening it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was impossible, but there was a way that they could do it. Technically.
If they had gotten someone who didn't know to do it and then stood really far away.
Yeah, basically. So that's my knowledge on the Ark of the Covenant.
Is that where you saw the Godfire?
Yes, Jack, that's where I saw the God
You
fire.
can't prove to me that you didn't.
I swear to you, Jack, I have not seen God fire.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Are there any good IMDb facts?
There are so many good IMDb facts. The one at the top of my list is in the Well of Souls sequence. If you freeze at just the right spot, there's a little like golden statue of R2D2 and C3PO.
Really?
Yeah.
Classic
Oh.
Spielberg-Lucas friendship.
That's amazing.
Strikes again.
They actually decided on making this movie because George Lucas goes on vacation when his movies come out to not stress about the release. And so they were just chilling in Hawaii when all of the royalties started coming in for Star Wars. And so he was like, okay, this is fine. I can talk about other stuff. And Spielberg goes, well, I want to make this thriller movie. And George Lucas goes, I'll do you one better. And that's how Raiders of the Lost Ark happened.
Nice.
Interesting.
So those are some of my IMDb fun facts. I've got more, but I'm still reading through it because there are a lot of them.
That's fair. In the meantime, I want to talk about the music because it was really good. Like, I mean, this is not news. This is possibly the coldest take, but the Indiana Jones theme, it's a good theme.
The only problem I had with it was that it would just start and stop randomly.
And repeatedly.
Yeah.
I had the same issue. It would start, and it would go, "dit-dit-dit-dit," and then
Yeah.
stop.
I mean, it wasn't
And then it would-
comically abrupt, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I over dramatized it.
It
but
would go into a different
dramatize it.
leitmotif and then go back into the theme, and it was like, what's going on?
Yeah,
But it wouldn't resume where it was.
Yeah, it would
It would
start
just-
over.
Start again.
yeah, it's Indiana's like doing something heroic, and then he gets interrupted. He's like, well, now I gotta start again.
I think there was one time where it got decently far into the theme.
It was when he was on the boat, and he just stood there in a circle while the theme was playing. He just stood there looking in a circle, looking for, I don't remember what it was. I think it was the girl. I think he was looking for her. And then, the theme was just playing. He was just standing there looking around in a circle, and then he went down a ladder, and then the scene cut.
Also, I'll say I didn't know that it was called the Raiders March, which makes sense when you only have the one movie and it's called Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's kind of funny in hindsight when you have a bunch of other movies with different titles.
I went to a middle school where our mascot was the Raiders, so I'm very, very painfully aware that the Indiana Jones theme is called Raiders March.
Oh, good.
So something else that I found on IMDb is that basically they filmed most of this in Tunisia. Basically everybody got sick, with the exception of Steven Spielberg. And he does attribute that to the fact that he only ate his own food while they were filming on location, and that was just a whole lot of SpaghettiOs.
Everyone else had those bad dates.
And I almost didn't add this fun fact to my list, but I just thought that the comedy of just living entirely off of cans of SpaghettiOs,
Yeah, halfway around the world, eating some Chef Boyardee.
eating some SpaghettiOs.
It's a quick and easy meal. You just heat it up and you're done.
It is food.
There are so many Star Wars references in this movie. I'm going to lose my mind.
We can't always end up talking about Star Wars.
This is too close to Star Wars to not talk about Star Wars.
It's basically Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is a Star Wars AU.
Oh,
there was
no.
even one going back to the music. There was even like I think it was during the truck chase scene. The music was just so blatantly Star Wars.
Also, in one of the scenes with like one of the first scenes with between Indiana Jones and Marin, it was just the love theme from Star Wars. Like it was like the same notes, and then it changed, and it was like that's just that one song from Star Wars to indicate the love interest.
I mean, I feel like we're just at this point recognizing John Williams. It's like, oh, it's John Williams. He makes good music. Sometimes it sounds similar, but
It was like a remix on the original.
yeah.
It was like I can tell it's slightly different, but it's very much the same.
This is the Han Solo Earth AU.
You know, there actually is a comic that was made where Han Solo and Chewbacca crash on Earth,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and then later Indiana Jones discovers the wreckage of the Millennium Falcon.
Man, if there was a fourth Indiana Jones movie involving aliens, I feel like I'd be okay with that being the ending. The aliens they discover are in fact just Han Solo and Chewbacca.
That would have been much better than young me, who had a very, very intense childhood fear of aliens. Walking up, only Indiana Jones movie I ever saw in theaters. Fresh-faced and excited.
Oh no.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah, that was...
It's unfortunate for several reasons.
yeah.
There was a moment when you were talking just now where you were saying something about being afraid of something. You paused just an extra second, and I thought you were going to say Shia LaBeouf.
He is an actual cannibal. There's reason to be afraid.
And that's all I could think of the whole time.
I really hope that internet video stays like a popular thing, because otherwise the thing I said was absolutely buck wild, makes no sense.
So, Josh, when we were watching the Well of Souls sequence,
Okay.
you did point out that so many of the snakes looked fake.
Yes.
They weren't fake,
They weren't.
but they also weren't snakes.
Go on.
Elaborate.
They were actually legless lizards,
So they're
Okay.
snakes.
and you can
Well, no,
notice
it's a different thing.
which ones are the lizards instead of the snakes because they have ear holes.
Interesting. Like, I've known legless lizards actually exist. Like, glass snakes are actually lizards, but they're small. I've only ever seen those. I didn't know that they got that big.
They used about 7,000 snakes and lizards for the scene.
7,000?
They
Yeah.
really could have just used a bunch of fake snakes for as much as some of those were moving.
Yeah.
They really weren't moving a lot.
We can't say no animals were harmed in the making of this film because one of the pythons did get bitten by one of the cobras.
Oh, no.
Imagine the things that happen when you throw a bunch of snakes into a pile in a room.
Also, that was the only snake that got harmed, but one of the crew members also did get bitten by one of the pythons.
Well, at
Not-
least it was
not
the
great.
python.
Yeah, it was the python.
Yeah, no, it could have been worse.
And it would not let go
Oh
That is a
no.
thing.
for a
That's-
very long time.
Yeah. How did they keep Harrison Ford from getting bitten?
Oh no, man.
Fire. Did you watch
Sheer
the
luck.
movie?
This is the period of time where it was not uncommon for there to just be numerous safety hazards while filming.
And Harrison Ford did like to do his own stunts and stuff.
Yeah, he spent a considerable amount of time in the midst of 7,000 snakes
And lizards.
and lizards.
Marion's stunt double wouldn't do it, so a lot of the shots of her legs are actually the snake handler.
Huh.
Interesting.
Neat.
Okay. Interesting, yeah.
Oh, speaking of doubles, and I guess also dubbing, I think like the first guy we see speaking like with a German accent is just completely redubbed. Like it's a close up on him and he's saying something to Indy and I don't remember what it is, but it was so poorly like ADR'd that it took me out of the movie. Like, he's saying something and his mouth is not matching up at all. I don't know if anyone else noticed that.
I didn't.
They actually, I don't know if they did dub them over for these versions, but for the German versions, all of the German speaking actors had to be dubbed over because their accents were just so bad.
Yeah, that tracks. I wonder, did Germany actually have... I mean, I don't imagine they'd have issues displaying this. I know, like, the Nazi flag is illegal, like, in Germany and stuff, so... I imagine Nazis being depicted as villains isn't as much an issue, but I wonder if they had issues with movie sales or just releasing it in Germany because of that. Because it's not exactly historical either, like accurate.
It's a good question.
I don't know where we'd find this information.
I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah. That was just something to throw out there. Just a thought.
I can just do a bunch of fun facts. A lot of these fun facts just like really shade the country of Tunisia, so I don't want to bring them up.
That's fair. We could just tangent into Star Wars.
We could. There's so many. It was actually the first Star Wars that he went on vacation for.
Ah.
So this was, yeah, good times. He was in Hawaii, just chilling with Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg also considers this to be one of the best films he's done and the most perfect film out of the Indiana Jones. He calls it a trilogy. The IMDb facts call it a trilogy.
Because it is one.
I love how everyone just collectively agreed that the fourth movie just doesn't
There
exist.
just isn't a fourth Indiana Jones.
There are some movies that just don't actually exist. The live-action Dragon Ball movie that doesn't exist, the live-action Avatar movie that doesn't exist. That's 3 fake movies right there. How did they call him Ong? It's not... It was an audio-visual medium. How do you mispronounce the names?
Yeah, it was there for you. You already knew. It was there. Why'd you have to, like, reinterpret it?
I would like everybody to take one guess as to what the sound of the boulder rolling came from. Just what do you think they used?
They scraped a rock across the ground and then, like, slowed it down.
Okay.
I was going to say they did kind of like that warbly, like, tin metal. They just kind of, like, wobbled it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Give me something.
They probably took some sort of animal sound and then slowed it down.
Okay, so these are all very good guesses and are also very on brand for things that we generally do use sounds for. They did try rolling boulders and just using that sound. Was not good. They didn't have a sound for a while. They couldn't figure it out. And then as they were leaving the filming location, they got in their Honda Civic.
Oh, no.
Oh, good.
And as it started to roll down the gravel hill, they said, wait a second. So the big boulder is actually just
A Honda Civic.
a round stone Honda Civic.
Listen, the best Foley comes from unexpected places. Also, did you know Foley was, like, the name of the guy who invented the art form?
I would have guessed that just because it sounds like a name.
Yeah, like Tucker Foley. But, like, I never... Tucker Foley's not the name of the guy, by the way. That's the Danny Phantom's friend. But, yeah, no, they didn't have a sound effect for something, and he, like, went and he was the first Foley artist, because his name is Foley, and he was so good that they named it after him.
Man, I wish that my name was something that someone could name something after. Like, no one's gonna say, "Ah, yes, I am a professional artist."
So you have to add that joke out now because your last name's in it.
I think that we should just dox him for the comedy.
Yeah. I mean, how are they going to find him? He has, like, the least unique name ever.
Well, does he? There's only, like, one other Josh now.
Oh, yeah. And technically his name isn't even Josh. He didn't win that fight.
I guess that dates this episode.
As after the Josh fight, we already had an episode where we mentioned the Josh fight.
Oh, that's right. We did. I forgot we did that.
The Josh fight's old news.
Oh,
The
you're
internet
right.
moves fast. You think like 10 years from now that kid's gonna put on his resume that he won the Josh fight?
I doubt it.
He'd probably put it on like a social media account or something. The real Josh.
Sorry, I'm in the dead zone of the fun facts.
What was one of those other Star Wars ones?
Oh, the call sign that the pilot uses at the beginning of the movie is OB3PO.
Oh, that's good.
Good.
That's real good.
Oh, here's a good one. Sam Neill, our boy from Jurassic Park last week,
Ah, yes.
was originally, well, not originally, but he was considered for the role of Indiana Jones. But he did not get it and would later be cast in Jurassic Park as Alan Grant.
Well, there you go. Everybody wins.
They actually considered a lot of people before Harrison Ford for this role. Looking through the list, there's not a lot of names that like super jump out at me, but they only cast Harrison like 3 weeks before principal shooting.
Wow.
Harrison Ford just kind of fell into being a star, really.
If you can tell he doesn't want it anymore.
I don't know if he wanted it then.
When you have done as many like iconic things as Harrison Ford has, you really just want to go to bed again.
Yeah.
Like, he's Han Solo, he's Indiana Jones, he's Blade Runner. It's not like he needs a nap, he needs a break. He needs people to stop stopping him on the street and saying, "Hey, you're Harrison Ford." He knows.
Yeah, Harrison Ford just wants to be a handsome carpenter, and he's never going to have that again. Decker, I couldn't remember the Blade Runner guy's name. He's Decker. It took me a while. I don't remember his first name, though. Was it John?
It's a good movie name.
John Decker? Yeah, that sounds good. You gotta make a new D&D character named John Decker.
Gosh dang it.
He's gonna be a fighter. I can't make him a fighter and a carpenter. I think he's just Magnus Burnsides.
Kathleen Kennedy was once again involved in this movie. She was involved with Jurassic Park too.
Wow.
She was listed as associate to Mr. Spielberg in the credits, but then eventually went on to co-found Amblin Entertainment, is, where she is now in Lucasfilm.
Yeah. What does associate to Mr. Spielberg mean?
I don't know, but I guess it means going places.
Yeah, she was just friends with Mr. Spielberg. Just his pal.
Apparently, George Lucas personally directed a few of the second unit shots, in particular the monkey giving the Nazi salute.
Yeah, I can't believe that they had the monkey do that.
They really had to make you distrust the monkey so that when he died of the bad dates, you didn't feel as bad.
That was a Lucas special. He specifically wanted that in.
Yeah, the monkey was a Nazi and a snitch, and then it died. Come to think of it, Star Wars is really kind of like not a big metaphor for like Nazism, but like the Empire is very clearly fascists, and the Stormtrooper name comes directly from like Nazi stuff.
I'm pretty sure they were just called stormtroopers, weren't they?
Yeah, that's essentially what I was saying, but better worded. My point being, he tries very hard to make Nazis the enemies and things, and I can respect that. It's really weird that people associate with the Empire and the First Order like they do, because he's like, hey, these are fascists and they're bad. That's like that's the point of 6 out of the 9 Star Wars movies. I know he didn't really directly work on the last 3 of them, but still.
But they're definitely also supposed to be Nazis.
Yeah, it's...
I mean, some of the most Nazi imagery was in, like, the 8th one or something. Which one was it? Where they're, like, actually just in formation, like, all saluting.
Yeah.
The one guy on the stage with banners behind him, like, I don't think they could get any more direct in this comparison.
And yet, I don't know, that's always something that bugged me. People who like Like, I get kind of like jokingly doing it, but people who really associate with like the Empire or the First Order or the Death Eaters in Harry Potter, it's like, what are you doing? You know they're the villains. You know that they don't have a leg to stand on. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, some people, like, with everything that's been happening with J.K. Rowling, are like, man, I really regret my Dark Mark tattoo now. I'm like,
Now?
bestie, you really shouldn't have gotten it in the first place, but okay.
Yeah. It's wild that this is the thing that puts you off of, wizard version of fascists. It's just fascists again, but wizards. Why were you taken in by this? Evaluate some things, please. So anyway, and I don't mean to pull this too far off the rails, but also it is back to Star Wars, so it's completely on the rails for us. Indiana Jones dresses like a resistance fighter.
You know what?
He's squarely in, like, the jacket camp.
Oh gosh, dang it, not this again.
Do it.
He does, though.
Don't bring us into this conversation, Jack. We don't have the time.
I understand you want the episode to be an hour, but we cannot have the jacket, vest, gown, robe, armor, table conversation a second time today.
I mean, I wasn't even going to bring up the whole chart, but...
I agree with you, Jack.
We made the chart. It's done now. We can come back to it later, but not now.
All right, okay. My point still stands.
I agree with you, Jack. I think he very much looks like a resistance fighter.
Yeah, if you took away his hat and gave him, like, a Star Wars hat of some kind, any kind of sci-fi hat,
Yeah.
he would just be a resistance member. That's all.
Yeah.
We don't need to go into the whole chart.
Are there anyone is there anyone in Star Wars who wears a hat that's not a bounty hunter or like a council member?
If we're not counting helmets,
Yeah, no, not helmets.
then I guess like Twi'leks wear headgear.
No, like a hat.
Well, not
What
everyone
do you
has a human
qualify
hat.
as a hat? Because it's a different galaxy. It's different fashion.
I mean,
Like, there's no ball caps.
All of those, all the, like, people at the Blue Shrimp Village in Mandalorian had hats.
I guess they did.
Yeah.
Man, they were all bounty hunters, huh? It's crazy.
Satine has her, like, headpiece thing.
I don't know if I'd call that a hat. Like,
It covers most of her head.
like Padme has a bunch of headdresses that she wears. I wouldn't call any of those hats.
Yeah, headdresses is not a hat.
There's no casual hat wear.
The only hat wear is specifically for bounty hunting.
The cast members at Black Spire Outpost have hats.
That's most likely probably for sun
That's
protection.
because they live in Florida.
They live in Batu, first of all.
Get your facts right.
Are we sure it's not Eda Floor? I'm really upset that I didn't put together that was just Florida.
Oh my god.
Did
Eda
you not?
Ford.
No.
Oh, bud. Well, welcome to the revelation.
Wow. That's amazing. I learned so many new things on this podcast.
Most of them Star Wars.
Almost exclusively.
So, final thoughts on Indiana Jones, this thing we've definitely been talking about the entire time.
I really enjoyed it. It definitely shows its age, but I thought as a whole, it held up very well. I thought the plot was very, very good. I don't know. I can't describe it better than that, but it was just a very enjoyable experience.
Are you excited to watch the other two?
You know, I kind of am. I do want to just kind of know what happens.
Well, that's unfortunate because you have to wait for those to come up on the wheel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, dang.
I really enjoyed watching it again. It definitely reminded me why it's such a classic. I think that it's very telling that we just didn't have a lot to complain about. And that's part of why I think we had such a hard time talking about it for a little bit. It's just that there's not a lot wrong with the movie. That's not just the technology wasn't there to make it sharper.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I obviously also enjoyed it. I will say the only other faults I had aside from the technology was just that, like, structurally, it was also kind of a product of its times a bit. Like, there was a lot of times where Marin was just kind of an object. Like, she was a damsel for most of the movie, which is, like, her introduction is very much like, hey, she drank this guy under the table and then, like, had a coherent conversation and then had a fight. But then for us, the movie, she was kind of just an object. And that's unfortunate, but still was pretty good for the time and for what a lot of women were doing in the movies and, like, other movies at the time. But it's overall still a really good movie. And, like, the fact that this is just coming up now as, like, looking for things to complain about. Otherwise, it's a fun time.
I enjoyed it. Having never seen it, it was pretty good. I'd probably watch it again if it was on. So that's good enough for me.
That's high praise from you.
As someone who doesn't like movies, it is very high praise for me. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Well, this has been HQ Movie Review of Indiana Jones, The Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm Josh.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Heather.
Good night, everybody. You stop that.